Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name's Bryan Steele, and I'll be your nerd today. And every other day that you contact or watch or look me up or any other weirdness that has to do with me or my channels or my phone or my email. Or I can just be your nerd, like we could be nerd pen pals if you want. I'm down with that. So, it is just a couple of days before Halloween, All Hallows Eve, Samhain, as you will. And it is a weird year. 2020's been very weird for everybody. Between not being able to, people going back to school, not being able to work all the time, wearing a mask everywhere you go, and not like a fun mask necessarily. Most cities canceling official Halloween festivities for the kids because they don't want to spread the virus. It's been a rough time. And it made me do some introspective thinking recently, and I'll share some of that with you today. But let's actually talk about the week in Bryan first. So, because I'm important and I want to talk about me before we get into talking about the world and stuff. So it's been a good week. It's been a busy week. I was supposed to have a meeting earlier this week about the next Shadowrun novel. Now that the other one is finished, I need to start thinking about outlining the new one. But I need to have a little bit of information from Catalyst and John the editor before we dive into that next outline for reasons that I cannot disclose, NDA-based reasons. Warzone is going great. I believe Alex said that the next playtest wave should be going out maybe before this video? I don't know. So if you're a playtester, watch your email. You're going to be getting stuff soon. If you're not a playtester, just know that we are working really hard to make that game as badass as it can be. Let's see. What else? Working hard on Spycraft. Not necessarily, too, like, we're not like, crazy ahead of the game on that one because, honestly, the guys at Crafty have got a lot going on. I don't know if you saw, they just recently had a Kickstarter for, Dollars to Donuts. One of their board games, and I know, talking to Alex over there, it sounds like they're gearing up for another board game here pretty soon. Either way, they got a lot going on, so it's understandable that our Spycraft stuff has slowed down a little bit. Still working, don't think that we're not. But in all honesty, the predominant news. My artist for Kelsey, the artist for my DM's Guild project for Dungeons and Dragons, is almost done with all of the internal art. And then as soon as my wife can find time to make it happen, she is going to be doing the internal layout and some of the graphic design on the inside. I was really shooting for a December release for that to be up for December, maybe so some people could buy their DMs or their players, or make it a little cheapy, I bought this for everybody in my gaming group kind of thing, because it's not going to be very expensive of a download at all. Pocket change is really what it's going to come down to. But that's getting closer. I really am hoping for a December release, but it's gonna come down to how quickly the internals can get done, and get everything stitched together into a sweet PDF. but the lion's share of what I've been doing for this week, and probably for the next couple weeks, has been the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers role-playing game. We've had a bunch of really cool meetings, about things that can't talk about yet through Renegade, which are super cool. I'm excited to be able to unveil some of that in the future. But just to give you a little bit of a I can't really talk about the inner workings of the game, but I can say that I think if you are a Power Rangers fan, you're a fan of the universe, if you're a fan of that kind of over the top good versus evil fighting dudes in rubber suits style genre, I think you are going to eat this game up with a spoon. You are going to love it. We're really catering to the fans of the fans of the show, the fans of the comics, and Hasbro is very careful to check over everything that we do, so we don't do something stupid and change the universe or anything like that. But yes, that's basically my work stuff. Has been a lot of that. But I've been really, really excited. It's super fun to play in a new... I've done things on here before where I've talked about it's fun to play with IP. It is super fun to play with an IP that you are mostly familiar with. Like, I knew a lot about the Power Rangers because I watched some of those shows growing up. But what I have learned since, and the amount of studying that I'm actually doing to make sure that I'm getting everything right for this game, it's staggering. It's actually a much deeper world than what I had originally given it credit for. But yeah, no. So I think that's going to turn out to be really cool, and people will be super excited. Let's see what else. I got a little Prezi. I've already got it put away. So this last weekend, I was able to play a game of Necromunda with my my Palanite Enforcers, which, by the way, thank you again to the viewer who sent me those. I always put my address in the description of the videos in case people want to have something on the show or send me a gifty or something along those lines. And it has definitely panned out in a couple of places. Well, someone additionally, so I don't believe it was the same person, but so last year I had commented that I really dug the Palanite Enforcers models. I thought they were really cool, and one of the viewers actually sent me a box of Palanite Enforcers plus the dice plus the cards, which was awesome. I was like, that's fantastic. And then I bought the Subjugator box, and then recently I went to go buy the Forge World Scrutinator, the special character for the Palanites that comes with their little robo-dog and the rules to field them. And because I was a little late on the draw, Forge World initially was out of it. And I don't remember where I was. I may have been on TikTok. I don't know if I was on TikTok or if I was in Facebook or so. I don't know what it was, but I basically made a little complaint about the fact that because I waited 3 days to pre-order that model, Forge World was out of stock. And I felt that I was really grumped out about it, and I was like, man, that really sucks. Well, someone out there, one of you guys, found that out, grabbed my address from the description of one of my videos, and went ahead and sent me that blister. So thank you very much for that. I didn't thank you last week. I forgot. Because last week, I don't know if you noticed, but I was very tired and very jumbled all over the place. But so I'm thanking you today. I don't want to name names because I don't like to unless someone specifically wants to be known, and this particular person did not say so. So I'm just going to say, you know who you are. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I fielded the Hound. I didn't field the Scrutinator because she's crazy amounts of points, but I did field the Hound in my game, and learned a lot about what it is capable of doing and what it cannot do. A lot. I got my butt kicked. My buddy Chris, he is a longtime friend of mine. We have been through thick and thin, multiple marriages between the two of us. He is one of my best friends and one of my playtesters, and he does have a knack for picking the right force in these kinds of games. Whether it's Necromunda or Mordheim or Blood Bowl or anything along those lines, where you've got kind of a skill-based growth type things, lots of variables. He's very good at picking that kind of stuff and putting together very, very scary forces. And combined with the fact that my dice were absolute garbage in the game, and he had a very tough force that included a freaking Ogren, which I almost dropped, I might add. But again, like I said, my dice were terrible. He beat the pants off me. It's really what it came down to. It got pretty ugly. But aside from that, I've been doing a lot of gearing up for playing with my Necrons some more, as hopefully as people get safer and use more masks, and maybe some restrictions will get dropped down a little bit and people will start playing again. I put together some Star Wars Legion models that I ordered from my buddy. But as of just yesterday, I did order some very cool Necron stuff, which is over there by the Hobby Rig, which I still have. I need to get my laptop in and have them take a look at it, so I can start doing some more hobby videos for you guys, because that would be great. But so I ordered a bunch of stuff from my buddy Jake's store. You know what? I am gonna go ahead and put. I don't normally plug Jake's store, but I'm going to. So my buddy Jake runs a gaming store, a very cool gaming store, out in the Boston area called Alpha Omega. And they do shipping. They've got a really cool. What's it called? Frequent buyer program that even works on their online stuff. They're very, very cool. They are not a sponsor through Alpha Omega, but I just want to let you know you should buy some stuff from them. If you don't, either you don't have a local game store, or maybe you have a game store that isn't too COVID friendly right now. But Jake and those guys will absolutely take care of you. For the people who watch our Spelljammer YouTube game, the Arcane Promise, which I do apologize, it's been a while. We all of us have been so busy lately. We just haven't had a chance to narrow down a handful of hours to play. But Jake plays the Warforged in if you are familiar with those videos and you want to support his store, Alpha Omega it is, and I'll put the website address in the description of the video. But so I ordered some Necron stuff. I'm trying to keep up on all the new things, so that way I don't get behind when it becomes like when something new and fancy comes out, or something else hits, that I won't run out of options. So I've been buying some stuff, but in this particular order, my good friend Jake, in his amazing store, apparently had some stuff lying around. So for the people who don't know, I do like the Battletech. I have played Battletech most of my miniature life. I have not played in a while, but I still love the game. And even like the video games or the virtual reality pods in arcades and things, I've always my backing has always been Clan Ghost Bear, because they are the clan that realized, yeah, we've got all the cool technology and stuff, but we don't have to be jerks about it, and we can defend the younger and more vulnerable inner sphere in the books and things. So I've always liked Clan Ghost Bear, and so in my most recent package, my good friend included some Ghost Bear merch. I didn't order this; he just threw it in. There's a really cool little like lapel coin. It's got a, is it a Battlemaster? Actually, I think it's an awesome. I think it's got an awesome on one side, and then the clan Ghost War symbol, and that's like a metal coin. So it had one of those. It has, oh, and I screwed up the box to put it together. Come on, Brian. Don't. There we go. 2 Ghost Bear D6s. How great is that? And then the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, a actual Ghost Bear pin that I will put on my I'll put on my show lanyard. So when we eventually get back to going to conventions and things, I'll be able to represent Clan Ghost Bear, and no one will know. Well, they'll know because they'll be wearing it. But yeah, so thank you, Jake and Ben, the guys at my buddies over at Alpha Omega, for throwing in that cute little Halloween gifty for me. It makes me super happy. All right, take a drink. It is just apple juice. I am trying to, as the seasons change, I am trying to real hard not get a autumn cold or a season shift flu or anything like that, just for the sheer fact that right now, anytime that I get even remotely chills or a cough or anything like that, my first thought is, oh geez, I've got the Rona, and I immediately start panicking and hoping that what am I going to do? Do I have to go get tested? Or then a couple hours later I feel fine, because it ended up being that I sucked in a dust bunny full of gross. So I'm loading up on things that aren't bad for me, so to speak. I'm drinking a lot of orange juice and apple juice and things that I don't normally drink a lot of, in order to stay healthy. So bring back around to Rona and the like, and a little bit about the Power Rangers. So Halloween's right around the corner, and you can tell by the name of this video, if you actually paid attention to it when I clicked it, is we are going to talk about grown-up subjects in gaming. And the reason for that is because I've been hurled so deeply into this very G-rated kids show. Really, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is really a kids show in those first few seasons. Like, there is no there's no innuendo, there's no the one boyfriend girlfriend team couple on the thing, they kiss each other on the cheek maybe once every 3 episodes, and they barely hold hands. Like, it is as G-rated as it gets, aside from all the fighting and the monsters and the explosions. Obviously, no one dies, that sort of thing. And it occurred to me that in one of our meetings, one of the Renegade meetings recently, we were talking about how Power Rangers does have a level of campiness being that sort of tongue-in-cheek, you gotta sort of smile at how campy it is. You can't take it like huge physics involved, and yes, this guy's jump is, his jump distance is tripled for no reason, because it's just how the show works, and we were discussing how much realism can you really put into a game that is this campy, and it led me, which I believe we landed on a great point of, kind of lets the game master decide. But it is one of those things where it made me start to think about when we released this game. When we released this Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game, because of the rules that it uses, and the open-endedness of that particular rule set and whatnot, that there may be instances where in people's games playing this, that they may choose to ramp it up a little and make it more adult. And I don't mean adult as in like, oh yeah, Tom and Kimberly. I mean, make it more adult as not, maybe a group of bad guys attacks the mall, and instead of all the people running out, safely, there's a bunch of casualties. I mean, when one of the giant monsters stomps on the Power Ranger team, if the numbers don't work out right and is running out of hit points and all that stuff, depending on the game, there's absolutely a possibility that you could kill people. That's just how the system, if you wish to play that way, the system allows for it. And it did make me wonder, and I started kind of thinking about things, is how far do you guys out there as gamers, how far do you allow your games to go? Like, where is the end? Where is that line? Now, it's been a quick minute since we did the episode on consent in gaming, the Green Ronin consent form, which we all I think can agree is an excellent thing. If you are concerned about your players, or not, or you don't want to be a jerk to your players and subject them to things that will make them walk away from your table unhappy, I think we all can agree that that's a good thing. But when we did that episode, we were looking at it in a way that meant, okay, where's your line drawn, and then you'll stop. We didn't really discuss the fact that there might be games out there that there is no line. That there might be games out there that the line is way over there. Like, we want this to be a crazy violent, super over sexualized, whatever your particular table is comfortable with collectively. We didn't really talk about that. We didn't talk about the fact that I have recently been exposed to, through the TikTok communities, through the TikTok D&D communities, which are amazing, I might add. There are several subfacets of the communities, and one of those subfacets is very adult. And I didn't realize that until I joined up to kind of the collective D&D Discord server through TikTok. And again, a lot of the people that are on this, they're just there to share character ideas, talk about cool stuff, normal back and forth, and that's not to, like, I hate to use this term because I don't like the term. It's not to slut shame the R-rated D&D players. It's just basically the status quo. The status quo is, you fight monsters, you try and save the day, and gain levels. But it is one of those things where I was eavesdropping. I don't play in any of the Discord games, but I was eavesdropping on one, and they not only accept the concept of these characters are going to do very adult things to each other. Some of them are excuse me. Some of them are going to, it's the Rona. Some of them are going to get very explicit. They are going to get into territories that hopefully everyone at the table is aware that it's happening. They're not like broadcasting this. It's not being like a paid Twitch service, or it's not, and it's more along the lines of, if you come into this, you go to a cowboy bar, you expect cowboy music. if you go into a mature rated, warning attached D&D server that says we do explicit, erotic, sometimes definitely R-rated D&D, you got to know what you're getting into when that comes about. And so I popped into one of these rooms, one of these Discord areas, and kind of sort of eavesdropped on the game. And I am no prude by any stretch of the imagination. Far, far from it. But I do think that sometimes those sorts of games, when announced that way, they attract people who don't really, in some cases, that don't really care about the role play so much as they care about the role play. You know, they just want to really get into all this dirt, all the risque stuff, and it's not about the story anymore. And it's not about fighting the good guys or the bad guys or thwarting the local, you know, chieftain, so long as your other requirements for the game are you know, the boxes are all ticked. And it just it kind of made my wheels were turning, and I wanted to ask you guys, you know, I'll discuss, you know, my thoughts on the matter, but I kind of wanted to ask you for the comments and things. Where do you draw your line? You know, where do you, would you have an issue if your players collectively, and again, take into consideration everything that I'm saying does not have like a weird odd man out situation where there's like one person at the table that's just not wanting to, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to get kicked out, or you know, everybody, like, if for everything that we're saying tonight, take into consideration that everybody's on board. Everybody's on board. Everybody wants to try this out. And at any given moment, if for some reason they've decided that it's too much, they wave their card, they put down their flag or whatever they're going to do, and they leave. Everything's fine. Everybody else who's sticking around is doing a good job and doing what they want to do. So I don't want this to turn into a, why would you have that at your table? It's more along the lines of, if you felt you could have that at your table and your players agreed, where would you take it? And I bring this up because there's kind of two different, you know, again, right now I'm working on something so campy, so fun-loving, high morals, you know, like, I'm working on that level of thing, that the sheer thought of someone playing that and trying to push it to an R rating is weird. Now, that being said, I know it can be done. And I don't say that like, I know it can be done. I'm saying it because there is a YouTube, it's not a fan video because like Katie Sackhoff is in it, Jason Biggs is in, no, Jason Biggs? I can't remember his name. The Dawson from Dawson's Creek. But yeah, those guys, it's got some star power in this effectively fan-made movie that is it's like maybe 15 minutes long, 14 minutes long, but it is definitely as an R-rated alternate future Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It is, God, I don't even know how to look it up. You know what? I will look it up and I'll put the link in the description so you guys can take a look. First off, it is unbelievably well done. Like, again, I've mentioned Katie Sackhoff. They got some very high caliber people in this little video. But it's also got some really good fight scenes and some really good graphics. But what it did prove to me, that you absolutely could. You know, you do have to kind of wink a little bit at some of the stuff that happens in a Power Rangers setting. But looking at that video, I don't think there'd be any problem, any trouble with someone running a hard R version of that setting. Um, and it made me think a little more. Made me think a little deeper into what what else could you do? Because there's really, aside from language, at least speaking from the perspective like U.S. rating system, aside from language, there's really only two things that catch you an R rating or worse, NC-17 or something along those lines, and that's uber violence and gore and sex. Those are really the only two things that will score you an R rating in the U.S. Language to a certain degree, but over the last couple of years, it has really lessened what you can say on TV and in movies before they will start patching you with, start looking at you, you're slipping out of that PG-13, mister. So again, setting language aside, and just focusing on those two things, the concept of violence and horror and gore, and then on the other end, the kind of nudity and sexual situations and explicit behavior. That's really the two roads you can go, or a mix therein. A lot of times they do mix them quite a bit, to achieve that R rating in your game. And I was just thinking, I was just like, a lot of times in D&D, the violence is just, it just is. And sometimes the description of the violence is, I would say R-worthy. Like there are many times where someone the DM might go in real deep talking about how the arrow went in through his eye and came out the back of his head, or you look at a player and say, okay, hey, it's your critical hit that killed the guy. Describe what happened, and the player goes really deep into like his axe comes down through his collarbone and splits him down the middle, and things like that you wouldn't see on regular like network TV. You might see it like from behind or in a shadow or something like that, but like in visceral description and gore for the audience to see, that would be pushed into like an R rating. I know that there are games where a lot of people enjoy getting their characters into romantic situations. I know I've been part of it before. Hell, I've been part of it in LARPs before, where you not like act things out, but you act out the emotional side of things, and your characters have this sort of off-screen romance kind of thing. And in D&D, I know that's happened quite a bit too. Sometimes the fighter who the paladin who rescues the damsel ends up with her hand, or that rakish rogue who seduces who seduces the sheriff of the town. The two of them have this sort of love affair off camera to make sure that that neither of their almost like a Romeo and Juliet sort of thing, like the Thieves Guild and the Constabulary, they don't know about the two of them getting together, and there is always that sort of thing, and there is something to be said for those sort of story elements being there but not necessarily part of the role play. Do you go into great detail as to what happens when these characters get together? Do you take time out of your game session to come up with dice mechanics and things for making love? I know there are games that have in the past. I know that there are people who run D&D and might tongue-in-cheek, make a Constitution save. There's countless ways that this can go down, but it is, at the end of the day, as long as everybody's happy and everybody's having a good time and nobody leaves the table feeling squidged or squicked out by what happened, then your game is still a success. And there are other games that are even more inherently intimate and inherently more romantic. Vampire, for instance, Vampire the Masquerade has a very, very heavy romance intimacy factor involved. It is, and this is not to be like, vampires are creatures born of myth, but they are creatures born of myth that have a romantic spin to them. Even ugly, monstrous like the original Nosferatu, like Max Batu, they they had there was still a romance element I want to be intimate with something beautiful, but I can't because I'm a monster. There was always that involved, and you take that into consideration for something of vampire, where you can make a character who is a Casanova. I don't feed on people until we are off doing things that grown-ups do. I don't. The new Vampire, the new fifth edition of Vampire, specifically has different effects based on the emotions that are in the blood at the time, that when you feed on them. So there is a benefit for feeding someone who is in the throes of passion, who is in full on, I love this person at this moment, I'm feeling nothing but love. Blam, I drink the blood and I get the cool bonus because they love me. So there is definitely reasons, even in-game reasons, to try and push some of that narrative towards that intimate, that romantic, that potentially erotic game style. And again, as long as your table is okay with it, do what you got to do. And then there's also the other side of that coin. Games like Werewolf the Apocalypse, where, yes, Werewolf the Apocalypse, you absolutely could have love affairs, and you could have your family that you want to raise and raise to fight the good fight. And you could be out there looking for Mr. and Mrs. Right to have your next litter of pups with. But overall, that game is about the battle, the actual war inside of you against the evils of the world, against corruption and the actual poison that is killing the world around you, that created you as its warrior. So a game like that, where you can lose your cool as a werewolf and literally tear everybody in a room into little tiny, little meaty salsa bits, that game could absolutely become super R-rated because of violence. Like you could easily spend, character frenzies, and he's in a room full of, something bad happens and he's in the back room at a supermarket. I don't know, you're hiding from your enemies are out in the thing. You dove in through the flappy doors in the supermarket. You're back there. There's you and like 3 or 4 cargo people, and they're like, "What are you doing back here?" And you're like, "Shut up! Don't! You're gonna give me away!" And you fail a couple of bad rolls, and your dude flips out and frenzies. Turn into your giant wolf form. You grab people. You start just going to town on things in the back of this supermarket, and your storyteller could, at that moment, go into narration and go, things in the back of the supermarket are bad. The plastic flappy doors get that blood splat. Break scene. And end scene at the splatter. Or they could go into great depth and say, okay, start rolling dice. What do you do to Jonathan, the door eats delivery guy, who happened to be in the back room at the time picking up his order for Mr. McNeary. He's right next to you. What do you do? Well, I'm frenzied, so I guess I attack him. Yeah, but how do you attack him? You could go in depth. You could turn it into this kind of way, as a storyteller, you could turn it into a way to kind of punish, I don't want to say punish the player, but basically that character, when he comes out of that frenzy and sees what he's done, and unless he's the most callous, horrible person in the world, he is going to have some some pretty messed up thoughts about what just happened, because none of these people deserved what happened to him, or what happened to them, and he's got to deal with that fact that he did this thing. And then your reality sets in, and oh God, did they catch it? Did they put it on? Was it on camera? Were there cameras back there? Did anyone get away? Did anyone see what happened? Did the bad guy that I was actually hiding from in the grocery store, did he know what happened and fled because, oh man, now he's got all the proof he needs? There's all kinds of things that can happen from this that could make for a really cool story setup if you push that hard R. I mean, obviously, the same thing can be said if you don't push the hard R and you do cut to commercial when the blood splatter hits the plastic, but you are going to probably run into more of a situation where the player doesn't have nearly as deep of an imprint of what happened. When you guys are talking about what could be on that tape, what could be on the security tape, if they don't know just how bad it is, they might not care as much. Who knows? But yeah, so there's, again, I really do feel that there's a way to and a reason for pushing that envelope, pushing that line, as long as, again, I can't say this enough, as long as your players are okay with it. And not okay as in I'm okay with it because everyone else is okay with it, and I don't want to seem like the weird guy out. I mean, like, literally everybody at the table's fine with it. But I know me personally, like, I really had thought about it, and in the games that I play, I do tend to be a little more descriptive when it comes to the violence, to the killing of monsters, the killing of player characters, just things in general. I try to get very descriptive when I want a visceral reaction out of someone, when I want them to be squicked out, when I want them to go, oh, that's disgusting. I will go overboard in how I describe things. They're not just corpulent fat. This gluttony demon, it's not just a fat guy. It is someone who is molded to the chair that they sit in. They have, parasites that live in the folds of their flesh. When he turns his head, you can see parts of the folds in the neck that have been stuck together with sweat and grime tear apart. That's how I'm gonna go deep. I'm gonna get nasty on you, because I want you to be able to smell that room. When you see this guy, I want you to go, oh my gosh, that's disgusting. I don't want to just say you walk into the room and there is a possessed guy, big fat possessed guy in a chair. I want to get deep. I want to have a reaction at you. I want you to understand that reality has been pushed to its limits here and probably broken. That's where I normally go with my R's. When my games get to a hard R, it's because I've either tried to make things as gross as possible, tried to describe things in detail that makes you go, oh, okay, all right, you can stop now, or just raw, like, horror movie stuff. Again, this is how Halloween brought some of this up. Horror games. I love horror games. I love inserting a random horror episode in a regular game. One of my favorite claim to fames was I was running a Werewolf the Apocalypse game in high school, and one of the characters had said early on that they really wanted to, at some point they wanted to have this kind of Vision Quest type, They wanted to do this big like search themselves, search their cleanse their inner demons sort of thing, kind of spirit quest. Now, in a normal circumstance, that's really hard to do narratively because more often than not, your guy's just going to roll some dice and you're going to tell him whether or not he succeeded and say, it was real deep. You found yourself, you fought your demons and you got out. But because of this particular character and because of how important it would have been to them for this to happen, what I did is I actually contacted the rest of the characters, the rest of the players, and told them the next game session is going to be a little bit different. Play as normal until the first time you guys all collectively go to sleep. When everybody lays down, everybody says, "Okay, cool. We'll see you guys in the morning." I want you to know from that point until I say otherwise, it is going to be a dream sequence for Mike's character, for his character. This is all going to be in his head, and the way for us to really drive this home is I need all of you guys to play as normal, play like you regularly would, but just ham it up a little bit, just a little bit. If you are angry about something, shout about it. If you think that your character is fighting the desire to punch that guy, don't fight the desire, just hit him. And know the fact that there's going to be a bunch of stuff that I do that will push the kind of boundaries of reality, and I don't want you guys to necessarily fight me on what happens. Like, I don't want you to be like, that's not the rules. I want you to roll some dice. If I tell you to make Constitution saves, you make Constitution saves. If I tell you to do Wits plus Alertness for initiative, but minus half your dice, you can complain about it all you want, but do it. Just keep pushing us forward. And more than anything, before the end of the game session, all of you are going to die. Spectacularly. Horribly. And probably because of him. It's going to be Mike's fault. He can't save you at the last minute, no matter what his dice say. He can't get to you. I will make sure that this happens, and I want you guys to act accordingly. I want you to get upset about your characters dying. I want you to get up from the table and say, I need to go walk outside. Be in the moment, because at the end of the session, when it is him versus basically this evil thing that is killing all of you guys incessantly and terrifyingly, and that will be when I do the big reveal, and he will see just what is killing all of his friends. He'll see what I want to show him, and then I will say, and you roll over and you knock over your water glass on the end table, or something along those lines. And just as he is about to strike the final blow, getting ready to claw across your face with a flaming green balefire claw, he pauses, and you can hear a late 80s tune that you swear, where is that coming from? And you wake up and it's on the clock radio. And then everybody comes back to the table immediately. The amount of shock that went through his person, his player, Mike was not the kind of person that would cry, but I definitely saw there was tears, there was gloss in his high schooler eyes of relief that, oh God, this wasn't my fault. This was, I received a lot of profanity for a few moments. I received some applause for a few moments, and then there were a lot of laughs. Very similarly to like when you have that sort of cathartic moment in a horror movie, where you just kind of have to laugh and sigh and go, oh, God, good one, you got me. And that's exactly what I was aiming for that particular game session. And I hit it. I hit it hard. All of my players were perfect. I could not have asked for a better crew of players to back my play, because they all wanted to get this guy. And then, of course, at the end of the session, we were like, okay, and then I told Mike, hey, here's the benefits for you going through this psychological, spiritual, traumatic, spirit event. Here are the bonuses that you come away with it, plus anything that you may have learned while you were, in this dream realm. And it ended up being one of the coolest moments that I've ever ran. Definitely one of the most fun player moments, because I could see the other players at the table, because I knew what was going on, obviously. I could see the other players at the table changing, basically altering what their characters might do just a little bit in order to ham it up, in order to, I'll tear the door off. Someone could see. It's fine. I know you've got my back. It was perfect. It was beautiful. And it turned out to be an amazing moment, and hopefully that player will remember it as well as I did, that the time that his DM orchestrated an entire session around his vision quest, his nightmare quest, is really what it came down to. And there was no question that was definitely an R-rated session, because we got definitely into some horrible type things that happened to people and happened to people around him. I definitely went for shock value on several of the deaths, and several of the NPCs around him had horrible things happen to them. It definitely was not a breeze, emotionally speaking, or viscerally speaking. Now, I can't think of a time where I've ever run. I've probably run some explicit or erotic scenes, like, go to the local brothel, or maybe in a vampire game, someone who's gotten very into a particular romantic moment or something like that. But I can't for the life of me remember one that ever really pushed super hard into the R. Maybe it dipped in and then, you moved on. Is one of those, okay, let's move on to the next scene. I don't think I've ever really, even as a player in other people's games, I don't think I've ever been subject to a seriously hard R on the, erotic, sexual type side. And I think a lot of that just comes from the fact that most of the time, I won't say all the time, but most of the time, my groups of players have been mostly male around the table, and it would feel just a little bit weird to spend a lot of time describing that type of scene at a table full of dudes. It might feel a little out of place, or maybe not, depending on the situation. But I know that I can't think for the life of me of any particular scene like that sticks out. In a Changeling LARP that I was in, I had a very strong, intimate relationship with a member of the. My character was with a member of the royal court, and it was very much I am a lowborn monster. I will never be able to be with this person, and no matter how much she loves me, we will always, she'll always belong to the Duke. I will never be able to be with her, and that was a very driving point between our characters. And there were some very cool scenes where, like, anytime that they would do a big shout out for, okay, who's gonna who's going to go quest to kill the evil beast. I was always one of the first people in line because, you know, it was a matter of if maybe if I can eventually be honorable enough, glorious enough that I can be with her. And it also gave me an out because my life was pain, you know. Changeling, even though Changeling is a game about the Fey world, there's still a decent chunk of ennui in there. There's still a lot of emo factor, and that particular character had a lot of, you know, if I go out here to try and impress the world and try and be the hero that I need to be with her, and I die, at least I die a glorious death, and she will know that was for her. You know, like that sort of thing. But that was just the closest that we ever had to. You know, there were a couple of scenes that, like, we may have been by ourselves with no one around, and very old Victorian medieval style, like, you know, we would hold hands when no one was looking. You know, that kind of thing. So it never got filthy. You know, it never got dirty. It never got erotic, because that type of stuff would only have ever happened you know, like once a year during the crazy Beltane festivals where everybody is you know, drunk and on hallucinogenic fairy dust, and, you know, you never know where you might wake up and with whom and what happened. You know, I think that was the closest thing I may have had to an R-rated scene in that world, when I had a different character who was a bad guy, an evil man, who I woke up after the events, the Beltane events, where it was quite obvious that I had done some horrible things, but it was never narrated to me. It was never, you know, I was just basically shown, here's the aftermath of what you've done, and I was like, oh no, you know, like that sort of thing. But yeah, like, I don't, you know, I'm not going to say that I'm not capable of writing or scripting or playing those kinds of scenes. I think I would be. I just generally, for the most part, don't ever see a reason for them to happen. I'm not, you know, when I'm not writing a romance novel. You know, I'm not writing something to try and get my readers in an intimate froth. You know, I'm trying to tell a story. I'm trying to make them love these characters, but not necessarily like that, if that makes any sense. Now, if I was ever told specifically to write a scene or a story or something like that to push that kind of hard R, I'd have to give it a shot. I'd have to try. I would just always be worried that it would just come off as too much, or come off as just grotesquely fake, or, you know, in a best case scenario, that it would show a side of my talent that I didn't know I had, and ends up being something that I get requested of more, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so that's kind of where I stand on this whole topic, and it really has highlighted itself working on something in the opposite spectrum, working on something that is where I'm writing rules specifically not with the idea of, you know, oh, well, this combat's going to end in a bunch of people dying. You know, in the Power Rangers show, you know, more often than not, monsters just sort of explode into sparks, you know, or the main minions sort of fall apart because they're made of magically imbued clay. You know, like, it's there's a reason why there's a heavy unconsciousness clause in a lot of games, and this kind of game is exactly one of those reasons why. And it makes me think, it made me wonder just how, specifically in role-playing games, just how far as a designer how far can I expect my rules to be taken at face value, and how far will someone else push them? I've in again in D&D games, I expect people to go toe to toe and kill monsters. But I suppose someone could play a more cartoony style. We don't actually kill the monsters; we knock them all out, and we tie them up and leave them for the monster cops, or whatever. Yeah, I guess that's always something you could think of. Kind of a children's cartoon-esque version. Superhero games. Very rarely would you ever see a superhero game turn into a bloodbath. It'll be a drop down, drag out, punch everybody in the face, lasers everywhere. But overall, you're probably not going to see a lot of death. Except maybe by the bad guy. But, like, from your character's perspective, you're probably not going to do a lot of, just straight up murdering anybody unless you absolutely have to, or you're playing a character that's okay. But then that's going to turn into a whole other, discussion anyway. It's just one of those things where I wonder, and I realize I'm going a little bit over on time, and we'll wrap up here in a second. But I wonder, and I really would love for you guys to talk about it in the comments, is if you got a role-playing game system that was quite, I don't want to say obviously, but like seemed to be more in a G or PG style, things like Pugmire or Wardlings or any kind of cartoon-based game. Where would you draw your line? Would you let your players, if they were all okay with it, would you let your players do a Stranger Things D&D game where you all are playing kids, but then you put them in some nasty situations? Could you play in a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game, Chronicle, that is being ran like that YouTube clip I was talking about that's obviously R-rated? Could you do that? I don't know. It's a question I ask for you guys, and hopefully you'll be able to talk about it. Next week, I don't know what we'll bring for next week, but hopefully good news, and hopefully another cool topic will come up. But as it is, I've got tons to do tomorrow. I've got my novel meeting. I've got D&D tomorrow, some online D&D, and I actually get a private screening of something that I did some voiceover work for tomorrow night. So it's going to be a good weekend. Hopefully I'll even get a chance to maybe, get out of the house, or maybe see if I can't bring somebody over into the quarantine safe area and get out there, have some fun, and play some games, because that's what it's all about. So please, do me a favor. Comment about stuff in the thing. Check out the links, and then come back and comment about stuff. But then stay safe, go out there, have some fun, and play some games. We'll see you next week.